All right, it is district breakdown time. That is my good friend Matt Diggs. You know him as the professor. We are in our second 5A Division two district for 5A Division two. I like to call it the haves versus the have-nots. And there's probably about four halves that are make this thing top heavy, but boy, did they have a lot. So maybe talk about what you think about the top part of this district.
This district is going to be really incredibly captivating for a number of reasons. Obviously, the top half of this district, as you talked about, is incredible. But I think an understated thing is that a lot of these talented teams that we're talking about moved from Region 2 to Region 1 over this realignment, and that's going to completely change everything. Ward, let me give you some facts. Let me throw some information with you. Let's talk about how they exited last year.
Yeah.
Lovejoy lost to South Oak Cliff 42 to nothing. Melissa lost to South Oak Cliff 38 to 30. Frisco Emerson lost to South Oak Cliff in the state semifinals. Are you seeing a little bit of a trend there,
I
Ward?
am seeing a trend. I'm seeing a trend very much so.
And now they don't got to deal with South Oak Cliff until the state semifinals, which could be an amazing talent, amazing opportunity for a team to get to that next step without having to necessarily go through that South Oak Cliff, cliff, if you will,
Yeah.
because a lot of times they hit South Oak and they're going down the cliff. But now we got a lot of things we got to answer in this district. First of all, we got Lovejoy minus Chris Ross plus Todd Dodge. For me, I like Chris Ross. I think Chris Ross is an excellent offensive talent, so I don't think that Lovejoy is going to be this incredibly well coached team that wasn't well coached. I think they're going to continue that continuity that they're going to have. And Lovejoy was an incredibly good team last year, except for the fact they could not get over, and for the
Yeah.
last 3 years, they could not get over that South Oak Cliff hurdle. Melissa, we got a new quarterback in there. We got Noah Schuback over there, who's a 2 year starter at Hoover, Alabama. I don't know if it was the one that they did that MTV show on, but Hoover, Alabama is very synonymous with high school football. So I know he understands the culture. He understands that. We got Anna, who's the reigning and defending state champion, our Collin County reigning and defending state champion, like a certain basketball team in 6A. But there's no place else for them to go up. Now we've got to figure out how Anna's going to do. When you look at that Anna 15-1, or you look at them from last year, well, they lost to Salina, and we know that Salina, how are they going to compete when it comes to that? Frisco Emerson beat Panther Creek last year, so we kind of get a little bit of an idea of where Anna might go into. And I know, Ward, you a lot of people may not know this, but I'm going to go ahead and pull back the curtain. You are the Houston guru as well. And I know you're very sad in Houston because Tomball Memorial lost their stud, Ashton Ansley, to Anna. So that's going to be one less piece for Houston, one more piece for DFW. So we got to figure out how these four teams are going to work things out in this district. For me, I think Lovejoy is still the top. But when I'm looking at these four teams, I know this is going to sound hypocritical, Ward, but I think all four teams are not as good as they were last year, but have the potential to be better when it comes to length of playoff run because of the way that the region is working out. So this is not a situation where if Lovejoy makes it to the state semifinals, Todd Dodge is this miracle worker. I think it has more to do with the path as opposed to the talent because
Yeah.
Lovejoy lost a lot of talent. They got Dalen McCutcheon coming back, but that's really the biggest name because Jalen Lott, their other big stud, is going to his home district now at Panther Creek. And we talked about Panther Creek in our small schools as a team to kind of watch. So Lovejoy, I think they have an opportunity to be better, but I don't know if on paper they are better.
Yeah, but with Lovejoy and Coach Dodd, he comes out of retirement. It doesn't. And he even admitted so. It doesn't feel like he's going to be there long. So if he's going to turn this thing around, he wants to get started right away. I look at those top four teams, and I'm wondering, maybe from your eyes, out of the four, I think as far as big play defensive players, Emerson's probably got the biggest big play defensive player in Malik Hawkins. But you tell me, is that where the struggle may be, and what they have to progress throughout the season with those four is getting their defense up to par?
Everybody is going to have these big questions. Anna's biggest question is defense. And one thing that I'm concerned about is Anna was really good offensively, but they were a 5A Division two team and 4A Division one clothing last year because they're a big school on the rise. So they had the the benefit of that depth. And Anna, when you look at kind of the traditional kids that go to Anna, the athletes, they haven't to me proven that their base athletes are going to be extremely good. So I'm very concerned about Anna's defense, because when I look at what Anna's got back, I look at Zeandre Zy Williams. I mean, an incredible talented Edward Chumley, and talented an incredibly talented talent. Who's going to stop anybody in this district? Who's going to be that defensive person for Anna? I don't have one person listed as a person to watch from Anna on the defensive side of the ball. But on, like you talked about, Emerson's got several defensive studs. Melissa's got 5 returning all-district starters coming back. And even though you might not look at them as, oh, what's that D1 talent, they still have a lot of continuity coming back. And Lovejoy's got a lot of just inherent talent over there in Lucas. So Anna, for me, is the biggest question: is how are they going to come up to 5A Division II and compete? Because Midlothian Heritage did that very well, coming from 4A Division I to 5A Division II. But Anna's now got the target as the defending state champions, even though they don't get to defend what they won. They are still coming into it as a state champion. That's their pedigree. That's in their mind. Will they be able to win? I think Anna's going to have a hard time making the playoffs.
Ooh, wow. Well, if you're saying that, that means somebody that I've already listed as the have-nots is going to slide up over top of them. Now, who might that be?
Team I'm very excited about is Prosper Walnut Grove. We know what Prosper ISD has done. Rock Hill was an incredibly talented team last year in a very hard district. They beat my Panthers pretty handily last year, but then when they got into district, they took Prosper to the very edge, but then they just couldn't handle the depth of that district. Walnut Grove is going to be a very scary team. You know, they had that outlaw schedule last year, Ward, where they got pushed. Yeah. They were 3-7 last year. They've got Braden Butler coming back, a very talented quarterback. Cam Newton, not quarterback Cam Newton, but running back Cam Newton. He's going to be there. And then you've got Denison. Denison is a team that is incredibly talented. Ty Rhodes is coming back at quarterback. You've got Michael Kennedy, the very talented wide receiver. This is a team that was incredibly good last year in that district with Melissa and Lovejoy. So they understand what it's like to compete with these teams. Now they got to deal with Frisco Emerson. This was a playoff team last year that lost to a very good Marshall team, 28-20. So you got Denison and Walnut Grove, who I think are going to push Anna. I'm not saying they're going to beat them, but I think that they're going to push them. And then all it's going to take for, if when we get into week 7, week 8, if Anna has a little bit of a depth issue, because I think that's where Anna's really going to struggle relative to Walnut Grove and Denison. I think they're going to struggle with depth, especially defensive depth. So if they have an injury or two, that's where, you could have a Walnut Grove who might upset Anna, even though that Anna might be on paper a better team than Walnut Grove at the beginning of the season.
Excellent. All right, give me 1 through 9.
I've got Lovejoy number 1. I've got Melissa number 2. I've got Frisco Emerson number 3. I've got Anna just making the playoffs at number 4. Denison number 5. Walnut Grove number 6. Frisco Memorial, I think they're the best of the Frisco ISD schools. I've got them 7. I think Frisco Liberty, coming from Division I to Division II, that's going to help them out a little bit, even though they're in a very tough district. I've got them 8th, and Frisco Independence to round out the district.
All right, Diggsy, we will catch you next week.